Namaste, Hare Krishna. I'm reading today from a letter I received from a Vaishnava named Krpamaya, who is an elder and leader in the United Kingdom. He also happens to be the father of Tulsi and Janavi Harrison. I had sent him a copy of Wise Love when it first came out, and unexpectedly I received this beautiful critique from him about the book. It's a little lengthy, so stay with me because he writes very well. It's very interesting. Pranada Comtois was kind enough to send me a copy of her book Wise Love, Bhakti in the Search for the Soul of Consciousness. I wanted to do her book justice and set aside some uninterrupted reading time, so while I was visiting family in Cornwall, southwest England, I read up to chapter 1. I liked the narration of Vyas in his ashram and was happy to finally put a name to his wife, Vyataki. Let's hear it for the woman who was the wife of Vyasadeva and the mother of Shuka. Yes, we should hear it for her. We rarely hear about them, or not enough anyway. Since the author with the surname Comtois, probably pronounced Comtois by my American cousins who love hard vowels, yes, Krpamoy, they call me Comtois and Coptos and Comatos. Anyway, he writes, no doubt had some French or Belgian ancestry. I thought it fitting that I read the rest of her book on a train journey to Belgium. So Krpamaya, my last name Comtois is from my husband, but I do have Belgian ancestry. For those unfamiliar with European geography, I should explain that we now have a speedy train line running direct and non-stop from London to Brussels in Belgium. The train moves effortlessly under the English Channel, the waters separating England from France, through a tunnel 26 miles long. My initial journey was 2 hours to Brussels and then another 2 hours to Marlow. That's Marla, not Marlos. And then he goes on, Watford, Hertfordshire, train station to London Euston. From the start, I'm appreciating Pranada's use of language. It's contemporary and accessible, although some of the terminology is derived from what I would describe as the New Age, spirituality, yoga world. And though I move in these circles a little, I'm still unfamiliar with terms such as divine, other, and the repeated use of the word heart. Krpamoy, that divine other was not from New Spirituality Yoga World. That was a term that I came up with for Wise Love because I wanted us to understand, we are familiar with at least in the West, the term significant other, which means our most intimate partner in life. And I wanted to point out that we have a more important, most intimate partner in life, and that's the Supreme Lord. And so I coined the term divine other so that we could become more familiar and also, have terms that are touching and fresh to us. So that wasn't borrowed from anyone else. Let's see. But this is a book for a specific audience, and I'm sure if I were the target market, I would read on. Certainly the chapter structure at 3 or 4 pages per chapter makes for easy page turning, giving the reader a sense of achievement. Very Dan Brown. If you don't know Dan Brown, he wrote on a very famous fiction piece, and his chapters were short, and so he's reminded of that book by Dan Brown. Chapter 2 is Being, Knowing, Loving, and is, I think, a remarkably concise and clear summation of the concept of Sat, Chit, Ananda, and their corresponding objects of contemplation. By drawing a connection between the 3 aspects in the individual self, the divine, and the planes of realization, she has produced something which is of direct use to any communicator of Bhakti Vedanta. There, I'm already getting into this terminology. So far, I'm beginning to like her attention to logical and systematic thought, a sequence of ideas, each of which progresses in logic admissibility to the next. It's important for the contemporary reader. I'm a little surprised at her immediate plunge into bhakti without any of the preliminary appeals to authority, such as introducing the fallibility of sense perception, the reason why the Vedas are accepted as a trustworthy source of information, and so on. But again, she seems to have a clear image of the reader before her as she writes, and after all, bhakti is in the book's title. She is very persuasive. If I was not already convinced of Krishna, I think this book would be enough to bring me to bhakti. And I've heard that it has brought a number of people to bhakti by the mercy of my divine friend. A real question: what is she going to do with all the readers who want her guidance? This book is powerful. It's a good question, Krpamaya, and I've been meditating on it for years, and I've come up with a couple of ideas, but it seems that we need a infrastructure to be able to do that, and I think it should be done online. And I was speaking with devotees in the UK and in the US, and ultimately I couldn't find anyone to help me with the idea I have for what we should do online to help people progress from different stages through their bhakti practice. And anyone who's interested, I'd be interested in speaking with them. He goes on, Eurostar London to Brussels. Somehow I loved chapter 5, and that surprised me because it's hardly 3 pages long. Turn away from your my's and locate your big I. I love it. Chapter 6, extended analogy of a tree's reflection on water, an old analogy but written with freshness. Chapter 7, 8, this chapter destroyed some old myths, and I liked the illustration of crimes catching up in a future life. Loved the grooves in a vinyl record on page 74. I think what I'm liking in Pranada's writing is the connecting tissue, the explanatory text in between the analogies we public speakers on Bhaktivedanta all commonly use. The mind-body machinery is not self-contained, therefore we are dependent for food, water, air, shelter, and community on others. We are forced to take from sources outside ourselves, end quote. Simple, but well-explained section. Chapter 9, horizontal and vertical development. Oh, what a helpful turn of phrase. I'm glad, Krpamaya. Chapter 10, nice distinction between faith and belief. Brussels, Belgium to Marlow, Belgium. Chapter 12, good explanation of duality and non-duality, but it is an oversimplification to present Ramanuja as a dualist, however helpful it might be. On page 144, the text reads, quote, in the 16th century, the prevailing belief of India dictated that salvation was available only to those born in high families, end quote. But Ramanuja had already put this idea to rest. There was already a substantial bhakti movement in the 11th century, although we Gaudiyas like to date the bhakti revelation from the time of Chaitanya. It was already in motion and geographically extensive by this time. I really liked the chapters on the personal qualities that develop along with bhakti, and that as we develop them, we develop our bhakti and vice versa. I think this is very attractive to a reader who's looking for tangible personal benefits. Along with spiritual love, they can become a much better, more loved person in this world too. Very attractive. Waterfall of moonbeams as a phrase was a little too much for me, but I can imagine who it was written for. So well done, Pranada. Krpamaya, or waterfall of moonbeams is poetry. We have to have some poetry in here. Chapter 34 and 35. I liked for their beautiful descriptions of reality the beautiful. Even those who had not seen an image of Sri Krishna would be attracted by this. In 35 is a very good appeal to reason using the story of a German drama. Oh dear, I can only imagine the expression on page 219 escaped the author and her editors. The Supreme Person takes on a human-like shape by his own desires. No, he doesn't, and saying it, I feel, risks undoing all the good work that has been done this far. Most readers are casually impersonal, and this book is to bring them to the line of theism. The human image is theomorphic, in the likeness of God, not that God takes on a human-like shape. The author knows this, and I know what she is trying to say here, I think, but because denial of Krishna's form is rampant, there should not be one sentence that is ambivalent. Sorry. So the reader will have to read that on page 219 and decide if me and the editors skipped a beat there. I don't think so, but I appreciate Krpamaya's comment. His final thoughts. A very well-written work that I would like to see as a primer for all coming into the world of Bhakti. Can I read that sentence again? A very well-written work that I would like to see as a primer for all coming into the world of Bhakti. You know, I can't give it to everyone coming into the world of Bhakti, but you can give it to the people you know coming into Bhakti, and they can give it to the people they know. It's for our friends, it's for our acquaintances, our colleagues. It's to hand out when we have kirtan, when we do any outreach program. We can have Wise Love and any of the books in the Bhakti trilogy to give people a little entry into the deeper philosophy, or not just the deeper philosophy, but the ways that are the ways we express it that tend to be very insular and not easy to penetrate and enter into. So it's they're entries. And then he writes, Pranada painstakingly and persuasively sets out the logical sequence of ideas leading to bhakti, and does so in a language that is accessible and contemporary. The philosophy of Bhaktivedanta is explained in pithy, easy to read but never patronizing chapters. It is a book for every intelligent newcomer to bhakti. As Pranada is a female writer in an often male author world, it is particularly heartening for me to know that many women will find in her presentation just what they need to begin their practice of bhakti. I hope so. Please help me spread the word and get these books into other people's hands. And thank you so much, Krpamaya, for your generous critique and honesty. And thank you so much.